让我们一起踏上一段探索的旅程，见证全球视野下正在掀起的能源大变革，关注千行百业可持续发展的未来。行业领袖对话，新锐技术分享，权威趋势解析，尽在方博探讨室。
ICT for green and green for ICT. And today I found a lot of innovative technology at MWC to help the customer to reduce CO2 emission worldwide. So today I invite some industry expert and also the operator customer to sit together to discuss how to reduce the CO2 emission by using the new technology. Let's start for the first topic. You know there's so many energy crises worldwide. This one, carbon neutrality, is the global consensus. Operators began to reach their carbon neutrality in advance compared with other industry. But you know that last 3 years, that means epidemic and also the energy crisis last year. This impacted the carbon neutrality process. Does this situation affect your carbon neutrality strategy?
Obviously, in a short term, it was a black swan with a negative impact in the CO2 emissions because the countries prioritize the warranty of supply for any other reason. But I consider that in the medium and long term, the consequence of these events will be positive for the reduction of CO2 emission for two reasons. One, the governments, the politicians, policymakers have now the willingness that they must reduce CO2 emission because substitute fossil fuel for renewable energy means more national sovereignty for the countries, means more warranty of supply. In relation to that, the European Union increased its targets from the 30 to 40, now 55% of renewables in 2030. Some countries, Germany, duplicated his target from 100 gigawatts in 2030, now is 215 gigawatts in 2030. Spain has a target of PV of 30 gigawatts in 2030, but this target will be increased probably to between 55 to 65 from 2030. There is a more important willingness. We need to advance more fast in the ecological transition, not only for environmental reasons, it's not now for warranty of supply.
It seems that renewable energy in European countries, Germany and Spain, they set up more aggressive plan for the solar plant.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Last year, the solar panel price is higher than the average year. So that means many consumers will pay more money on the solar solution. Does the government give more subsidy for the solar solution?
Yeah, but at the same time, in Europe last year, we suffered this black swan of very high electricity price. Even in the increase of the price of the panel was more lower than how the electricity price was increased in some countries, as in Spain, in Germany, or Italy. And then was a real driver, more than the subsidies. This high electricity price were a real driver to introduce especially self-consumption. We duplicate in Spain, we duplicate the self-consumption. 2.5 gigawatts of self-consumption were installed last year in Spain.
You know, the crisis in Europe due to the war in Ukraine basically speed up the implementation of renewable energy. And it's also one of the reasons why you got so much deployment. Not only you're going to save some money by investing in solar panels, but you're going to be also good for your kids and grandkids.
We have been committed since 2020 to net zero roadmap with an objective to achieve net zero by 2040. And on this roadmap, our first commitment was part of our Engage 2025 plan, was to reduce Scope 1 plus 2 by 30% by 2025 compared to 2015. We are quite well on track on this objective. We have achieved last year minus 20.8% reduction on Scope 1 plus 2 compared to 2015. And now we have recently committed as part of Lead the Future plan to our new objective, which will be to reduce Scope 1 plus 2 plus 3, and this is a challenging new point, by 40% in 2030 compared to 2020. This is where the whole ecosystem is starting to kick in, because in order to achieve a Scope 3, we need everyone to work together on this carbon roadmap. The recent crisis on energy has just reinforced the opportunity and validity of this strategy. So for us, this energy crisis status in Europe has just confirmed that the strategy we have decided back in 2020 is the right one and has to be reinforced. We understand now that it's part of our real life, and if we want to succeed, we have to be more efficient in terms of energy usage and carbon impact.
I think for the operator, improve the energy efficiency. That's the first step to reduce the CO2 emission. According to some third parties forecast, by the 2030, the energy consumption for the operator almost double than the before. During this situation, what's the operator doing in terms of the energy efficiency improvement?
If there is global warming as a result of CO2 emission, we have risk and we have opportunities. On the risk side, we as operators actually, we see that there are floodings, which is, we call the physical risk, like a flooding, like increase in temperatures actually. If we increase temperature outside by 1 degree, the energy consumption will increase by 10%. So all this is adding risk to us as operators. So we have to look at the entire value chain, starting from the AC power, which is the consumption from the source, to the DC power, which is where actually we are targeting to move it from the 96-97% efficiency to more than 98% efficiency. On the AC power side, we have to look at the way to replace the conventional way of producing power, which is using the diesel generators, and moving to either solar power solutions or even moving to variable speed DC generators, which removes the need for us to have DC and AC unit on site. We have one unit producing only DC power on site. For us, it's not only about risk, it's also about opportunities, because deploying those power solutions which are on the DC side will allow us actually to save on our operating costs. And if you look at that energy consumption, which is being doubled with the price increase of the kilowatt hour in the long run, and the price increase in the fuel, the liters of fuel, the price will increase, and we see it in the market.
Okay, that means try to reduce the AC running, and also use the solar solution, and also high efficiency equipment. So that's the key step from then to reduce the CO2 emission.
Definitely.
Some from technologically challenge, new equipment, more efficient, better usage. From the way we use and deploy network, for example, legacy technology decommissioning. It's about green energy, PPA, solar on grid, ESCO. It's about field operation. Field operation is a big component of our Scope 3 operation, or Scope 3 impact. It's a complete set of action plan.
You mentioned that we need to decrease the power usage. Yes, of course. And we can do it, and this is more on the RAN equipment for the telecom site or fixed network. Decreasing the power usage might be changing technologies, so pushing our customers to use more 5G, because 5G is 10 times more efficient than 4G. It might be decommissioning, old frequencies, 3G, or equipment which are on site, getting power but not useful, as you mentioned earlier. It can also be in implementing some energy-saving features. As an example, Huawei just announced at MWC, and where basically we have a super sleeping mode, where if there is no traffic, we're going to get only 10 watts of power consumptions. This is close to the 0-bit, 0-watt dream of Orange. So this is on the usage part. Then we also need to have a site infrastructure, which is very efficient and intelligent. So regarding efficiency, you mentioned the efficiency of the different components, like the rectifier. Yeah, you should use 98% energy efficient rectifiers. This is widely available, and with the price of electricity, which has been triple in Europe, in Italy or Germany, it's like 60 cents per kilowatt hour. The return on investment is very quick. It will be less than 1 year or 2 years. This is easy and this is available. Then we are also promoting the use of lithium batteries compared to lead acid batteries, and there is different reason for that. But regarding the temperature, as an example, lithium batteries can work at 35 degrees C, without any impact on the battery life or the battery performance, which is not the case of lead acids. By using this high temperature, or let's say this, then you can use more free cooling. So if you use more free cooling, it's less air conditioning, it's less also power consumptions. But it can be done for the telecom side. That can be done also for data centers, by the way, because when you talk about operators, you also got data centers. Then you can increase the temperature of the rooms. You don't need to be at 20 degrees. You can do at 28, 29, like, be close to that doing. And this is a big impact also on the power consumption and the CO2 emissions. Not only we can become greener by implementing this new digital technology, but you will save money.
If I may, since we are talking about the entire ecosystem, which goes from Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. Scope 3 being more on the partners and the supplier side. And we are here between MNOs and partners, definitely. And one of the concepts that we are exploring is the cradle-to-cradle concept, which is about we as MNOs and as equipment manufacturers actually working together from the design phase, so that when you design the equipment from the beginning, you keep in mind something, that this equipment at the end of the life should come back again to allow you to manufacture new equipment and then sell it back to me as an MNO. We keep the cycle going on in a way that we eliminate e-waste, because we know that waste has a value when it comes to CO2 emissions.
I would like to back for a moment to a macro vision, because energy efficiency is key, and the role of innovation is key in energy efficiency. It's the most difficult, it's more easy to advance, increasing renewable energy to advance energy efficiency. The most interesting advance in energy efficiency will come from the technological point of view. The role of companies of you, if you realize you are able to produce new units more efficient. But energy efficiency is very important, but to increase renewable energy is very important, because electricity is the more performance way to reduce CO2 emission. But we are not advancing electrification so fast that we need it. And then the governments need to go faster in the electrification. Then we need hydrogen. Hydrogen will be the ideal complement to electricity, because there are some end uses that are not where electricity is not able to produce in a competitive way.
We need green hydrogen.
Oh, of course, of course, only green hydrogen. No, it's the opposite. We are increasing
Exactly.
the CO2 emissions.
I agree with you, Donas. I think to use more, electrification is quite important, because at this time, in some developing country, because of the grid is not quite stable, so some of them use diesel generator. Although it pollute the environment, But comparing with the other solution, like you mentioned, hydrogen, so it's quite, the traditional solution, the cost is lower. So from the cost perspective, this is the reason. Although the electrification is the trend, but some operators still choose the diesel generator to power the base station in some rural area because of the cost maybe is lower. So anyway, I think that from the product chain, we also think that the hydrogen may be the one way to reach, to accelerate the carbon neutrality, but maybe not now because of the cost is still a little higher.
To bounce back on your comments regarding diesel generator, I think we saw with Huawei and I think with Orange and Zen very likely that we are being implementing some intelligent hybrid power supply where we can have solar power, where we can have batteries on site, where we can remove the genset sometimes or at least improve the efficiency of the genset to reduce the use of fuel.
Definitely, this is one of the best ways actually we can reduce our carbon footprint. The mix of the energy production system is such in a way that sometimes the intensity of carbon per kilowatt hour is a little bit high. One of the challenges that we are having in some part of the world is that the electricity is not decarbonized enough. And we need to work with the local authorities, with the government, with the regulations actually, to decarbonize the grid, which means that not only the MNO should be going for the production of clean power, but also the government should be targeting to have clean electricity in some of the countries, or let's say everywhere.
And I think it's very important because for the access to green energy, we need a PPA available. We are developing a solar on-site solution and so on, but this will never allow to provide the full electricity needs that we are in. So for this, access to PPA or long-term contract are absolutely, and we can see two challenges. In Europe, where we have the regulatory framework allowing for PPA, as you mentioned, the main challenge is the pipe of development, which is blocked by permitting process, by social resistance, because everyone wants green energy, but no one wants to have green energy produced by close to him. So it's a challenge, and permitting process is awful, and we are at risk in Europe because the balance between the needs of green energy and the capability to produce is at risk. So this is why the Repower UE action plan and other associated action plan are really critical. In Africa, for example, we have a very different challenge, is that in most of the country, the legal and regulatory framework is not in place to allow PPA. When you couple this situation with the fact that in most of this country you have only one electricity operator, which is usually in not so good shape in terms of financial status, then nobody can invest to put on the table the new assets that are needed. And these assets are not only needed because the European guy says that you need less carbon, but they are needed for the African country and African continent by himself, because Africa will never develop without wide access to energy. So the only way to improve the access to energy in Africa is to have additional power capability, and the PPA will be a strong tool to enable the financing to support this development. So we really need to work together to have an evolution in terms of regulatory context across Africa to enable the development of green energy at large scale.
It's for that we need to reflect with a specific solution for every country, for every area. And then we need change the regulation in these countries. But thinking, what is the best solution? I'm convinced PV is the solution for these countries. But there are many people that perceive renewables too as an economical chance, economical opportunity. Particularly we are seeing our country in rural areas. Extremadura, one region close to Portugal, is changing. It's a real industrial revolution. We are changing. Renewable energy are changing the world and changing the concept of geostrategy, wind or sun, that is in any place in the world.